What do you then think are maybe some of the obstacles that parents face when it comes to identifying maybe their own parenting style and how it's impacting their family?
Well, one of the biggest things that I see, this is my biggest challenge with coaching and working with parents, is that we're able to have an intellectual conversation like you and I are doing right now. We can be in a coaching environment and we can talk about how yelling is creating the kids to not trust you and to, here's all of these things that are going on with how we're parenting. And then when we talk about the changes that we need to make, whether it's, soliciting your child's opinion, like getting them on board, how do we partnership parent? How do we get them involved and get buy-in to the decisions and the rules? And the at the point of execution is where the parents find the challenge. So that's why I think coaching is really important because it makes the material come to life and it helps it come to life in your home. So there is a disconnect between an ability to go, yes, I hear you and I understand. But then when I'm home and I'm stressed and I'm back into that whole familiar patterning, what am I supposed to do again? Like, oh, what was I supposed to say? And I went through that myself when I had to change my habit of yelling. It took me months, weeks. I did have to go to classes. I did need to be reminded. I did need to go, okay, I hear you, but how does that apply to me in my life? In my case, my husband's deployed and I have 4 kids under 4. Well, of course I'm yelling. So I understand logical consequences, but I don't know how that applies to me. So the personalized content for each home and how to apply it and how that might be incorporated into what your past experiences are as how you were raised and all of that has to get incorporated. But that's the number one thing I see is an ability to understand what we need to do but not being able to execute at the moment. That's what I've been seeing parents just like, but darn it, because what I teach is very common sense and practical, but for some reason we're not all doing it. Why? Why are we making things why are we about punishment when we know it doesn't work? It didn't work on us, right? So it's interesting why we keep doing the same things that our generations did to us. My mom grounding me, or my mom yelling at me, or why are these things so easily repeatable when we know they don't work?
I will 100% agree. Like, there's a few parents that I remember speaking to, and they said, Terrain, I'm a logical person, but once my emotions get riled up, logic goes out the window.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? So it's like the default setting for so many people is that emotional, over the top reaction. And you made a fantastic point where you said that, well, as children, we didn't like it. Why are we repeating it? And sometimes that takes you back to my coaching, whereas it's all you know, right? Like it's like the person who grew up with alcoholic parents and all their partners are alcoholics.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's all they know. So if you know the punishment, and I'm guessing you're referring to like let's say more corporal, like the spanking and the belt and the shoe and the wooden spoon and whatever parents could get a hold of back in those days, right?
Yeah.
We didn't like it as children, but I guess so many people they're looking at it as well, all I know is the shoe or nothing, and they can't do nothing, right? So why do you think then there's a disconnect between more people going out there and saying that I need help with this, I need coaches, I need mentors, I need therapists? Why do you think then maybe some people, or not everyone, are a little reluctant to seek out the help?
I don't, I think that there is a giant movement towards seeking help right now. I think there are a lot of people in therapy, and there are a lot of children I know that are in therapy. So many of the parents that I coach, their children are in therapy. And I also do coach children and I coach, my favorite is preteens and teens. I love working with teens. So if I'm working with the parent, I will sometimes also work with the teen. But, I don't know why they're not, I don't know. I mean, I think that back when we were being raised and we were being punished or whatever, that whatever our parents were doing to us, we don't know what else to do. And we want the behavior to stop. I know in my case, when I was yelling, I just didn't, my oldest was just challenging me, and I was like, I just need this behavior to stop. So I'm gonna yell because if I don't yell, you're not gonna listen, and I need to raise my voice to show that I mean business. And that might work temporarily and in the beginning, but then, long term, when the kid just started glazing over at me like a deer in the headlights, like, screw you, and just looked at me like, I don't even hear you. You're yelling. I don't hear you. And I was like, I got to come up with some new techniques. But I don't know why, we just keep repeating that and we know it doesn't work, but sometimes we just want the behavior to stop. And what we teach as coaches and what, whenever and you go to a workshop, whenever you're learning a new way to do something, it's hard. It stresses your brain, especially when you're already in a stressful environment, and I'm still dealing with kids and friends over and making dinner and working. And I'm like, okay, what was I supposed to say again? And it's hard. It's hard to affect change. But I think if you are understanding the damage that is being done to your kids, like long term, and you can zoom out and look at the big picture, like an angry parent kind of creates a wounded child, or a wounded child who becomes a wounded adult. So what are we teaching now we're raising our kid to go and feel like they have to apologize for everything they feel and say, and like that love has consequences and love has a price to pay, and there's just so many consequences that when parents are made to understand that their behavior is affecting the long-term deal of their child, then they start to realize, okay, I do need to do something.